Lilith Electra. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
It is always, 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 always good to see you.
Oh, thank you. It's good to see you too. I miss talking to you on the reg.
Huge Lilith fan. I'm a fan of everything Lilith does. I had the great fortune to spend time with her in my last sales gig and watch just the unfathomably amazing things that she was able to accomplish, seemingly without effort. She might beg to differ, but just amazing. And then just to watch her thrive in all aspects of her life, including her podcast. But she'll tell you more about that.
Yeah, I would say there is literally no effort. I think one thing I pride myself on is only, if you're paying me, you're getting the effort that you get. And I put my real effort into things I want to do. So yes, my work for you was effortless.
It sure came across that way, all the good ways. And
yeah, it sure seemed like you were putting in effort.
For the record, just to clarify, because Lilith's not going to give herself enough credit, she was, in addition to being an amazingly skilled salesperson, one of the most buttoned up behind the scenes people as well. So don't let her fool you. All right. Well, let's get started. Why don't we've talked about it a little bit. Tell us what you would like us to know about your professional life.
Yeah, I'm Lilith Electra. I'm a life coach, but that currently is on hold because I work for a coaching company in their admissions offices just to get ahead of the questions like, well, why'd you pay all that money to become a coach? I love helping people. And I think working where I am, I meet a lot of people who are at that inflection point where they know they want to make changes in their life and they just don't know what it is. When they have that conversation with me, I hope they come to iPEC where I work because, that's my job and I get paid for that. But I really want them to leave that conversation with me no matter what they choose, that they've made an informed decision and they're on that trajectory they want their life to make. I've kind of made the last 10 years of my life like hitting those inflection points and getting better at recognize them and making choices. And I think that's really what I love doing at that job. And what I love doing in my life is just like making those choices when they come. And I think so many of us miss those opportunities in our own lives. Like we don't make the choice because we think that we can't, or we think that we'll make the wrong choice. And I found there's no wrong choice. You just make the choice. And then a couple days later, you make another choice.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens. Yeah.
Yep. Do the best you can at the time, right?
Yeah. I'm also a performer. I've been improvising for 20 years. I've been doing my own one-person show for 6 years now. Before the pandemic, I was traveling all the time and doing shows and teaching workshops, and the pan kind of kneecapped me, and I just need to get back out there and do stuff. So look for me soon at a theater near you.
Fantastic. And then just shifting a little bit to whatever you want to share about personally, something that maybe people don't know and what lights you up, anything you want to share.
I mean, improv is really what lights me up. I love performing. In the past, I've used my improv for communications training, and I've kind of tied that to my coaching. And I really love helping people unlock those things inside of them that, like I mentioned earlier, they don't believe they can do it, or they think there's a wrong choice. And I think we really hold ourselves back with that mindset and just realize, like, put it out there, do it. Even if you think an idea is completely stupid, just throw it out there, because even if that isn't doable, it might inspire someone else to change their line of thought. And so often we get stuck in these modes of thought, and we think, you ever had a thing where you think you like a math problem and you think you know the way to solve it, and but you're wrong, but you keep thinking like, well, this is what I have to do, and you keep working it and working. And then it turns out that there was actually something else you had to do, and it was actually completely simple. And I think that's what we get in life. We think we have to do something one way, and we stop seeing all the other ways of accomplishing what we need to do. Yeah,
for sure. I found with puzzles sometimes that it's almost like your brain gets in a groove rut, and you walk away and come back, and all of a sudden, there it is, right? But I think to your point, sometimes doing things, and even if it turns out to be the quote unquote wrong thing, although I don't think there is a wrong thing, is how you learn what the right things are, right?
Yeah, there's no wrong. There's just, you do it. I think I like to say there's no wrong in that. If you have A or B and you choose A and it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that B was a guaranteed right answer. It just means no matter what you choose, it's going to play out. And then you'll have to happen what's next. Maybe it's exactly what you wanted. Maybe it's not what you wanted, but now you just make the next decision on how you want to move forward. So I think people get stuck in a mindset that they have A or B, and one of them is complete success and one is complete failure, and they have to pick right. And it's not that way.
Yeah, life's not that black and white, right?
Oh, if only it was that easy. Imagine if you had a 50-50 chance every time you made a decision of being completely successful. Oh my gosh. That'd be amazing.
That's a great point. That's a great point. So tell us what pronoun to use.
I use she, her. And then, we talked about this. We mentioned earlier, like, I don't like the phrase identify as. It's so weird. Like, just go up to, I'm a trans woman, whatever. I don't identify as a woman. I am. Yeah. No,
you're not the first person to say that to me. And I've mentioned this previously in the podcast, but I find that the language around all of this to be very limiting in a lot of ways, to me anyway. How should I ask that question? How do we get to that with you in a way that feels better?
When you ask pronouns, she, her, that's kind of about it. And it's funny. We'll talk about this later. So we talk about like reinventing yourself and being the person you want to be. And like, I recently moved to another state. I'm just like, moved to the state. None of the people that I'm going to meet are going to know that I transitioned. They're not going to know anything about the past me. And then I take a workshop, and the first thing in the workshop, and I'm start writing a show about a trans woman. I'm like, well, this is basically my story. And I'm like, well, now I just kind of blew my opportunity to to just blend in. Yeah, I don't know. I would say, are you comfortable? I'm comfortable talking about it. I just identify as is just a thing. And I think I don't want to get too far off the track here, but I think there is a thing that we're seeing now with, and the far right conservative movement has been doing this for a while, is like weaponizing words. What'll happen is you'll see all of a sudden your uncle who's never read a book is talking about Saul Alinsky for some reason, or they start using terms that came out of nowhere. Remember all of a sudden, like, liberal was an insult like a decade ago, and now it is, well, you're just a liberal. It's like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Now it's like identify as is the thing as they've weaponized identifying as something. So I think there's a concerted effort to limit vocabulary, because one thing I've discovered is I couldn't have started this when I was younger because I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I didn't know what being trans was. I didn't know that you could be transgender. I didn't know that was a thing. And so if we limit people's vocabulary, if we limit the words they can use, if we allow people to reclaim what words mean, then we start losing that. I think, in 1984, it's like, instead of being bad, things were ungood. And it's kind of that kind of thing where we're seeing where words are claimed, words are used, DEI, CRT. We've seen all this stuff that none of those things mean what in reality what they mean, but we've got a whole half of the country that's convincing people that it means something that it doesn't. So I think when people started with identify as, like, that was a legitimate thing. But I think as we learn more about being trans, like, we're not identifying as anything. We just are who we are. Yeah. And I also tell trans people, don't go in and your transition thinking I have to be a woman, or if you're, going female to male, I have to be a man. Like, those are just definitions. You just try to be yourself. And that's kind of where I'm at. And it makes everything a lot easier when I'm not buying into the whole, a corporate feminine beauty thing.
Yeah, it's almost too simple. Just be yourself. All right. So I know you have some stories that you want to share with us. So I'll just let you roll.
So, this is a story about maybe about 2 years before we first met. I'm not going to say the university. I was working at a major university in the South. Some might call it the public Harvard. So if that might help figure it out. And I had been divorced, and I decided to start seeing a therapist, and I just, kind of coming to terms with all these things that I couldn't define when I was younger, and started my transition, and started in 2018, was working for this university in a job where I traveled the state. So we would do workshops all over the state. I would go, I'd kind of make sure everything happened. Everyone got their materials, everyone got fed, everyone, did their evaluations. And then I'd sit in the back and make sure, any fires came up, I'd put them out. And then went through 2018, was Lilith at home and everywhere else, but at work, I still hadn't changed anything. Although people did start to notice. I had a coworker, mention, so like, are you taking hormones or something? Because you need to start wearing a bra. And I said, thank you, but I'm never going to wear a bra, and I never have. But I get to 2019, and I decide, you know what? I'm far enough along in this. I'm going to transition at work. I told my work team about it, and they were fine up front. And I think this is kind of a thing when it comes to, like, what does being an ally mean? It's one thing to just, someone comes out to you, whether it's you're gay or trans or whatever it is, and just saying, like, I accept that and cool. But then when I started needing things to help with me at transition, I wasn't game. So the first thing was, hey, I'm going to these workshops. I'm if I'm presenting female. I don't have to wear them anymore, but I was wearing a wig and things like that. And I said, hey, can we, get my picture off the website and change the name? And then my boss was like, well, we can't do that until you legally change your name. And I'm like, well, you don't, but fine.
That's not a thing, but
that's
okay.
not a thing. I mean, it's just a website. It's not a legal documentation or anything. And so then I legally changed my name, and I said, hey, my name is legally changed. Let's get that website changed. And then it was, this is like April. And then it was, we got to get the website guy to do it. I put in a request to the website guy. This is all of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I had one guy who was one of our instructors who kept calling me by my old name, but like really loud, like Deadnaming's got our lunch back there. Sorry, I forgot. Could you don't have to say my name. You just say lunch is back there. Like, let's just make this easy as possible. And I went to them and my thing was like, well, did you tell him? And I'm like, first of all, yes. Second of all, like, this is your job. Like, I've been a manager before. As a manager, the first person I feel like I'm working for is my employees. Like, if they need something, if they need help, I'm there for them first. And so that kind of made me upset. And then also our industry was we were kind of dying. Like, we were getting less and less workshops. So we'd book workshops and then cancel them. I went through the whole year thinking like, I need a change, but this is before coaching. So I'm like, I don't know what that change is. I felt like I was going through the whole year in a fog. And then in December, I made a huge mistake on an email blast, and I was just at home and I cried for like 2 hours. And then I just came out and I went to my boyfriend. I'm like, I don't understand. Why am I letting this job I hate have such an effect on me? So anyway, I realized like, you know what? This is a part-time job. I am at a place where I have some money saved. I figured out like, if my bills were this much a month, I'm like, I could survive for 3 years on what I've got saved. And then I quit. I signed up for iPEC and quit and started the program in April of 2020. It was the best thing I ever had. I went through the program and just really made that decision to just do what was best for me in the moment. And I think, I think people forget that at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. And people, they hate their job or they feel like they work too much or work too hard and they don't have time for the things they want to do, whether that's family or vacation. And again, this isn't Lilith telling you to quit your job, but you have to assess your situation and see what's possible. And the scary thing might be the best thing, but our brains are going to tell us not to do the scary thing. Kind of one thing I've learned in my current role now is people know they can do something. They want to make that leap. And I don't know what it is in our brains that when we're about to do something great, I always joke, when we're about to be our greatest, our fear gets the loudest. And that's all I talk to people all day, every day. They tell me their stories. They tell me their background. And they're like, well, what if I do this and no one ever hires me and this happens? I'm like, well, what if you do this and everyone hires you and you never have to work, you never have to punch a clock again and you're in charge of the rest of your life. And, there's not a guarantee that either one of those will happen, but it's also very rare that either of those happen, that you have so much money you don't know what to do with, also that no one would ever hire you.
That's great. So are you able to pinpoint, you went through some understandable struggling, depression during the height of all of the transitions that you were making. And then at some point you're like, okay, I'm going to do what's best for me in the moment. Are you able to kind of isolate what helped you make that turn?
It was 100% screwing up that email and I let the whole year of frustration out. I was just crying. And then I was just like, why am I doing this? I hate this job. I hate sending mass emails. I love the easy money part, but I hate everything else about it. And it wasn't fulfilling. That's something that really struck me. And I'd been looking at coaching for about a year or two and I quit. And I quit before I had another job lined up and just decided, I signed up for the coaching class. I'm like, I'll find a part-time job to kind of keep me afloat for as long as I need to. And my whole thing then was like, I'm going to be a coach. And I was successful. I had clients all that first year while I was in the program. But it taught me that I have to assess what's best for me. And I have to let that make my decisions for me. I can't let the fear of what might or might not happen, make those choices for me. I can't just stay and this thing, most people do stay in situations where they're not happy. Because honestly, I literally believe our brain would rather have us be in a situation we hate that our brain has figured out how to deal with whether that's a bad relation or a bad job, your brain knows how to deal with what's coming, then to go into the unknown. We're afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
We're afraid of the dark. We're afraid of what's in the cave. We're afraid of what's at the bottom of our cereal bowl because we can't see through the milk. Maybe that's just me. Maybe everyone's afraid of what's at the bottom of the cereal bowl.
I don't think it's just you. I think that's, survival brain at its best.
Yeah.
It's just, it's going to make us comfortable. It's going to protect us. It means well, but it's not necessarily doing the thing that's going to guide us to the most happiness. Right.
Yeah. And so even before that, I had taken on the idea that like, if I want to do something, this was more of a creative thing with my improv. And it's like, if I had a fear about something or I thought I couldn't do something, I'd push myself to do it. And I created some amazing things on stage with that attitude. And I just kind of grew it out to my work life now. And so like I quit, I did it, and then was never going to punch a clock again. And then the whole time I'm in the program, people I'm going through the training was like, you should work for iPEC. You're just such an iPEC person. You should be one of the trainers. I'm like, I haven't even graduated yet. How can I be a trainer? And they'd send me jobs. We were looking for back-end web developers and marketing people. I'm like, I don't know any of that stuff. I'm kind of like not trained for anything like that. And then the job in admissions opened up. It's like professionally talking, which is, that's all I do is professionally talk. And so it was, again, another thing. Like I had decided I was never going to get another job again. I was never going to punch a clock. I was never going to work a 9 to 5. But honestly, this had health insurance. And it was by far the best paying job. And I'm 50 at the time. And this was paying way more than I'd ever made in my career. And I applied for and went for it. And it was a perfect fit. I don't think me or iPEC has ever regretted the decision of bringing me on board. And I brought that attitude with me. I know you had started the week before me, so you didn't do any of my interviews.
Nope.
But I remember my first interview, I told CJ, who no one listening knows who CJ is, but we do. I said, Hey, CJ. I said, hey, I'm looking at other jobs. I really do like this job though, but I'm just going to be upfront. Like if I take this job and like a month later, one of them I was applying for was Equality Virginia, which does advocacy work in Virginia. And I had done some free work for them and applied for the job. I said, if they called, I'd probably quit. I'll quit within a month. And she was like, yeah, I would expect nothing less from you. But like, just be like, I went in, I broke all the rules that you're supposed to do when you do a thing. Is like, yeah, I'm not committed to this. I think this is a cool place to work, but if something better comes along, I'm out of here. And they were like, ooh, we like that. And, everyone likes it. And I was there.
You're spicy.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. I wish, oh man, imagine how easy sales would be if everyone was just honest. You like call them up and like, they were just like, yeah, I can't afford this, or yeah, I don't want to do this, instead of saying, well, get back to me. And then you spend 6 months chasing them down and then they never answer your calls, blah, blah, blah. But about 3 months in, you were there. I was doing great. Hit my bonus. I was the first person to hit my bonus the first month I worked there and did it every month that I was there. And the CEO reaches out to me and wanted to have a conversation about what I was doing. And I was just like, I'm just kind of being me. And she was like, yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, okay, well, that's the secret. Be me, or at least be yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd get on calls with people. There were calls. I swore. I said, like, I'd be like, you're sitting here, your work is bullshit and you want to do something else. I get it. And I'm like, pardon my language, but you seem like you're cool enough to handle it. And they're like, yeah, I'm cool enough to handle this. I really like this program. The girl said bullshit to me on the sales call. And I felt this is the place for me. I don't know if that was it, but that really was it. It was just like being honest. People ask you questions like, oh, can I make a living doing this? I'm like, I don't tell people yes. I say, I don't know. Can you get used to the fact that you're going to ask 10 people to be your client and only one's going to say yes? Can you recognize the thing in yourself that makes you unique? If you can do that and verbalize that to other people, then yeah, you can make a great living doing this. But if you can't, and if you're going to quit because the first 3 people you asked said no, then no, you can't do this. But we're going to give you everything you need to be successful. We just can't make you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I had the pleasure of being able to watch Lilith do this from the outside. And, just like the story with the CEO, you're watching the numbers and, looking at the whole team, and there's just this spike in every category with Lilith's work and her. She crushed everything. I will echo it. Your authenticity, and I know that word is kind of overused, but it just was so refreshing even within the team, right? I mean, if you wanted a straight answer, if you wanted like the real deal, go to Lilith. She's going to tell you, right? And it's fantastic. Having spent a career in sales prior to what I'm doing now, the majority of salespeople, I know this is a gross generalization, right? But there's some sort of, here's what I'm supposed to say. Here's the positioning, here's the steps. And then I go to the close, and the ability for you to just show up and be you share that energy and that confidence with other people. And that gives that to them as well. There's something that's just so real and tangible about it, and stands out because it's just not what typically happens in the world, let alone specifically the sales world. So
I think that's a great point. And I think part of it is like we hate being sold to. Right. You ever go online and like you see a thing like, we'll redo your bathroom, click here for a quote, and you click here for a quote, and it's really just like, give us all your information and we'll be in touch. It's like, no, just give me a rough estimate of what this is going to cost. And then they start calling you, and everyone hates it. And I get on the phone with people like, yeah, is it my job to sell this program? Yeah, they pay me to make these calls, and I get a bonus if I get you to sign up. But I don't care. First of all, I don't care about money. That's the first thing, is like my money problems went away as soon as I stopped caring about money and stopped worrying about it. Mm-hmm. And then people don't want to be sold to, and I tell people on all my calls, like, if you come here or not, I do not care. If you decide to go somewhere else, if you decide not to be a coach, just let me know so I don't waste my time and your time trying to reach out to you. I want you to leave this conversation with me with an idea of where you want to go and what you want to do. I hope it's here, because this place is great. And I'm saying that as unbiased as you can, take everything I say with a grain of salt because I work here. But if you knew me, I'm not BSing you. That's really a thing, is it non-sales sales? I don't know what it is. Like, I don't bring that pressure in. Like, if someone makes that decision, that's out of my control. All I can do is give them the proper information. And if I can do that.
And ultimately you want to do what's right for them. If it's a good fit, then let's do it. And if it's not, it's, a service that you're doing for them to, kind of say that's all right too. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a yes. I think that's, again, it's just such an honest conversation. And I think it disarms people. You're not doing it strategically, but I think, who says that, right? But it's the truth. And then people, I think, lean into the conversation even more, because they're like, well, I'm talking to someone who's not like, not going to sell me a thing.
It all goes back to the thing about effort and not wanting to put it in. And if I can get you off my list of things to do, whether that's yes or no, that's all I want. I just don't want to be calling you anymore. I don't want to be sending you any more emails. There's the God honest truth.
Yep. One of my sales mottos is it's the
maybes yes that'll kill you.
The maybes will kill you 100%, right? First best
I
answer,
learned,
yes. Second best answer,
I learned all the lessons
no.
from you. Yeah, I learned all the lessons from you. It all stayed in my brain.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's great. And honestly, I think, it's a refreshing attitude to have. I mean, it gets you through those times when things aren't going your way, and you start beating yourself up, and you see people stressing themselves out because whatever's happening at work is just like, are you controlling what you can control? Because that's all you can do. Yeah. So often we beat ourselves up because we're about the things we can't control, whether that's coming out or transitioning. Like, what if this person does this? Well, I don't have control over that person. So I don't care what they do. Yeah. I hope they would support me. Yeah. And a lot of my friends did support me. But if they don't, okay, I'll find new friends.
Yeah, totally. So I want to ask you, and it's a little bit of a, looking back at everything that you have described that you went through. So I'm going to go to a conversation that I remember having during a one-on-one, and it might be more than once that we had it. It feels like it because it's so clear in my mind. Having said that, correct anything that I misrepresent. But what I remember you talking about was that some of the prospects that you speak to, they're making a very big decision. They're looking at taking on professional coach training. It's a high ticket item, and many of these people are also looking at potentially switching careers as a part of it. So it's a big decision. And I remember you telling me what you would say to them about what the possibilities were. about how they could look at the experience and who they had the potential to really be and embody in making that decision. If you could share what you shared with me, and then to what degree does that tie to what you feel like you learned going through your own gender transition?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer. I know exactly what you're talking about. For me, we're always growing and we're always changing. And if you're not always growing and you're not always changing, you're not going to be happy. You should never be stuck. And part of that is, if I meet someone for the first time, all they're meeting is the person I am today. Shanti will tell you what an amazing person I am, and I'm so outgoing and I'm so authentic. And I'm carrying, before I met you, I'm carrying 50 years of all the garbage that I went through, all the awful, it was bad. And I carried a lot of bad things with me. And so when you're moving forward, realize that how you're presenting yourself today, if someone's meeting you for the first time, that's how they're going to know you. And you're the one carrying all the bull with you. You're the one carrying all the mistakes you've made, as much as you let them be carried. And so if you want to be a coach and you want to go through this training, you want to present people as a authentic, active coach, and I'm going to help you get where you want to go. People only know that this is your fifth business, that, your other four all failed. They only know that if you tell them. And that only affects you if you let it. You could let it say, I've already failed at 4 businesses. You could say, you know what? I've started 4 businesses, which is I've taken 4 more risks than anyone else has taken. And now I'm going to take this next move and I'm going to help people live their lives that authentically. For me, that's really what it is you're not defined by who you were. You're not defined by what's happened to you. You're not defined by the mistakes you make, unless you allow that to be the definition of you. Mm. And, I would say, the person that CJ met in my initial interview for the job was probably different than the person you met when I got the job, which was, maybe 2 months later, is definitely different than, our new sales team. We've hired some new people. They're meeting someone who's even more confident when it comes to this. I had never done sales before I started here. And I was very, obviously, out of the gate, I was doing it, but I was very unsure of myself. And I hate talking to people on the phone. I hate talking to people I don't know. That's stuff that no one knows. Everyone's like, Lilith is an extrovert who loves talking to people, loves meeting strangers. And no, I don't like any of that. I hate making phone calls. I hate talking to people I don't know. Once I do, it's great because I do have, my personality is my personality, but talking to new people drains me. But people don't know that unless I tell them. People don't know I'm trans unless I take a TV writing class and I'm like, I'm a trans person writing trans stuff. I could have started completely over and just been Lilith and no one knew. And I'm just like, no, I got to be out front with this because it's important to me. And that's another thing. One thing we talk about with trans people, they're like, well, I don't want people to know I'm trans, or I don't, that's completely, you have to do what's comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. For someone like me, I think it's important for me to be visibly trans, just for people who can't be visibly trans, or people who don't think they can, who are not in a position to transition, and let them know that, I didn't do this until I was 48. Mm-hmm. And things are going great for me. And if you have to wait, I know it sucks, but you have to do everything at your own pace and do it. And so, sometimes you just have to go through the stuff to do it. You can always stop and pivot and redefine yourself. You can atone for your mistakes. You know, if you screwed something up, you say, look, I could sit here and beat myself up about this thing. And how long is it? The one joke, we all have something in high school we're still beating ourselves up about. And no one else that we went to school with even remotely remembers what we're talking about. Unless I tell them, unless I tell you about the embarrassing thing I did in German class in 1985, no one's going to know about that. I'm not going to tell you, but it was embarrassing. I farted in class there. Now everyone knows.
It's out there, so to speak. Yeah.
No one remembers that except me. I guarantee you. And I'm like, oh my God, I farted that one time.
Yeah. And it may sound, woo-woo, but I think that, whether it's atoning for mistakes or just looking at your experiences as an opportunity to get some wisdom about how you want to move forward. Okay, that might not have gone textbook, but it happened. What can I learn from it? And what do I want to take from it going into the next phase of my life? I just love that you were able to portray for people you can be whoever you want to be. You show up in that first coaching conversation and you embody your coaching and who you are as a coach and you're confident in that, you are a coach. It's just that simple. And to make it that simple and tangible for people, and especially having come from your own experience where you're not just saying it theoretically, but you're saying it from your actual own lessons that you've learned, hits people even deeper, I'm sure. And there are many, many things that contribute to your just wild success. And I know that's a huge kernel within that. So it's great. Thank you for sharing it.
No, thank you. I'm glad, honestly, it amazes me that, you and I worked together for a few years and now you're doing this podcast and you thought about, having me on to have this. I assume I'm the only one from the old company that you're having on.
So far, absolutely.
And I know you can't ask anyone else. It has to be just me so that I feel special. But to bring that full circle, I did quit that last job because of that. I'm here in the sales job. And, this happened, I think, after you left. But, I had someone who didn't want to talk to me because I was trans and said some really rude stuff to one of the people in admissions about it. And the CEO reached out to me and basically said, we can just tell this person to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But I think she said, I think you agree with me that these are the kind of people who could use our program the most and really grow as a person. And I said, I completely agree. And I'm not against this person, but if this person's coming to this program, they're coming through me. And the CEO wrote this amazing letter to him. She's like, we would never ask you to compromise your values. You know what? If you don't want to talk to Lilith because she's trans, if you believe that's a thing, that we're not here to judge people and make them think how we think. Conversely, you're not going to change who we are and you're not going to make us think what you think. So if you want to go through this program, then you're going to have a conversation with Lilith. And 2 days later, he had a conversation with me and signed him up for the program. And I used the commission to buy gifts on an Instagram called Trans Santa, where you get to trans kids who are not getting anything or not having a good Christmas can ask for gifts, and then you can buy them on Amazon for them. I actually spent way more than my commission on it, but I don't care. So thank you, random guy who didn't want to talk to me, who's probably graduating soon. This was last fall, so and thank you for the trans dude who I bought some pants and shoes and a big old thing of peanut butter pretzels. He appreciates that.
I love everything about that story.
It's so great.
It was handled beautifully by the company. It's, to me anyway, 180 degrees from the experience that you had at the previous company in beautiful ways. And the way you spent the money is just the cherry on top of the whole story. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. You talk about how to be an ally. Those are the things is having someone's back. I always say the easiest way is if you see a trans person on social media post something about awful things happening to trans people, share it. Share those stories. And I feel so many times I'll see cis people and allies who like stuff that I post, but it really is about taking the next step and letting your people know that, because you're going to know people who don't know trans people. And you're going to know people who are seeing, like we talked about earlier, words that are being misappropriated and changed the meaning of, and things coming down the pike, and they don't know about it because they're not in that world. So, share those things, have their back when it's tough. I mean, my CEO's job is to make money. At least I think. I've never been a CEO. I guess they're supposed to make money. So it'd have been very easy to be like, you know what, I'm going to give this to someone else. This guy's going to come here and I'm going to make money. And she's like, you're more important than making money. I said, that's what I've been saying this whole time.
Yeah.
All right.
Finally, everyone gets it.
Everyone gets it.
And that's really what this podcast is about is share, just like you said, if you see it, share it, sharing stories, creating the awareness. And, I've talked about this, but the awareness is important. And it's the first stage to potential acceptance, right? That's it. It's kind of that simple. So if you see stuff on social media and you can support by sharing, that makes complete sense to me. And that's not super complicated either, right? Just share.
No. Yeah. Easy peasy.
Yeah. Easy peasy. All right. So next segment I call It's My Podcast, so there will be music. And glad you like that. Like stories, I think music heals and unites and is a universal language. So I'd like to ask if there were one song that you could put in a a time capsule and preserved for all time, what would it be and why?
I think that anyone who knows me knows that song is Rebel Girl by Bikini Kill. Yeah, I don't know. I think it just sums up everything about like living life on your own terms and, looking up to those people who live their life like that, and being a leader by not leading, being a leader by living your best life and helping, letting other people see that they can do that. And it's a banger and it rocks. And Bikini Kill's going on tour. They're coming to Detroit, but I don't have anyone to go to the show with me. So I don't know if I'm going to go. Plus, no, like going to concerts. It's like, it seems like a cool idea when you buy the ticket. And then when you're like looking for parking, you're like, oh, this is such a pain in the butt. Same with sporting events. I just can't do it, but maybe I will. Let me ask you this, because you and I worked together for like 2 years. Like what kind of, like, we never talked about music. We just talked about, being amazing. Like what kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to a very eclectic mix of music. My favorite band, like all times, listeners will be hearing this, over and over, is the Indigo Girls, which is of course very stereotypical.
Yeah.
But they're just, I just love them. I can listen over and over and over and over, and I do. Apologies to my wife. So yeah, they're right in my sweet spot. So definitely.
Sure. I was worried you were going to say Dave Matthews Band, and then I'd have to.
No, I mean nothing against Dave Matthews Band, but no, not Dave Matthews Band. Yeah, I listened to the song this morning for the first time. I love it, so thank you, because now it's going to be in rotation. And it was, it's just got this badass energy, and the lyrics are kind of clever and in a not super serious way. And immediately, it made sense to me that was your song in all of the good ways.
Yeah,
really great driving guitar, and just enjoyed the heck out of it. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend Bikini Kill to everyone. I recommend, honestly, there were so many great female-led bands in that time, that early 90s time period, like around the time all the stuff out of Seattle got really big, but there were a lot of like women bands like L7 and The Gits and Bikini Kill. They're just like so great. Like if you just need a moment. Like I just need a woman to yell at me and get me ready to go into some board meeting or do something. Just pop something in and listen to it. Yeah. Great. Yeah. It was great music. And like you said, it's just like driving and get you pumped up, and love it.
That's good.
So glad I could bring that to you.
Yes, me too. And we'll be adding it to the Spotify playlist. So
all right.
Keep an eye out, everyone. All right. So I think that kind of brings us toward the end here. I know that you have your podcast, and I believe you have a show coming up. So what can you share with us about those?
Yeah. So the first is I have a podcast. I don't think, is it a podcast? I don't know. We do a live show every Saturday. We record live at the Transverse on Twitch and on YouTube. The Transverse. If you just search the Transverse, you'll find it. We go live from 3 to usually 5 Eastern, and we record 2 shows. One of them is called Being Trans, which is a show where we answer someone's question. Usually we get them on Reddit, but if someone emails us or leaves a question in the comments, we'll answer it there as well. And then the other, we rotate between 2 shows. One is called Culinary Delights, where we find old recipes and we kind of break them down and go over them. And sometimes they're okay, and most times they're awful. And then we have another show called Who's That Turkey?, where I have to guess who the political or socially relevant person is, what turkey they are based on the awful things they've done. And so we record that live.
That's great.
Yeah. And then we edit the live version down to like 2 separate shows that get uploaded on the Transverse every Tuesday. Is Transition Tuesday, the Being Trans, and then every Thursday is the whichever one we're doing, the Who's That Turkey or Culinary Delights. So they get uploaded. If you just want to watch the 15-minute version that's kind of edited and tight, you can watch them on YouTube later. If you want to watch us live and like leave comments and chat with us while we're doing it, jump on in to the YouTube or the Twitch if you're on the Twitch. And then I do have a festival coming up. I'm doing my Wisconsin Laugh Trip, my 1-person show in Tampa. Follow me on Instagram, Lilith Electra. I promise one day I'll get back to regularly posting stuff that's not just my cat sitting on me. And And LinkedIn, Lilith Electra on LinkedIn too. If you want to be professional, I guess we could do that. But I post even less there because no one on LinkedIn wants to see my cat, really. Unless I got him a little tie or something.
Please.
All right. I'll see if I can get the bow tie on him. He's basically a cat version of me. Doesn't want to do something unless he wants to do it. Really just wants to be left alone, but very personable when he feels like it.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to see a cat version of you? I think you're making assumptions. All right. Well, we'll make it happen. Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm happy every time I'm talking to you, and I'm equally happy to get to share you with some more people. And I've learned so much from you, and I really admire you, and just can't thank you enough for being here. So much love.
Well, I love you too, and working with you was such a treat, and I'm so honored that you reached out to me for the podcast. I guess last thing, if you want to hire me as your coach, you can go to lilithelectra.com. But
yes,
honestly, I'm kind of worn out with the whole work thing, so I don't really take on clients. But if you reached out to me and put in the effort, that says something to me. So yeah. But also Shanti is an amazing coach too.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I assume you were an amazing manager. Like you kind of just like let me do what I want, and like if you're successful, what do I care? And if you're not, then we're gonna have a conversation. But I always was. So she'll bring that attitude to the coaching too.
Yeah, my job with Lilith was basically just to get out of her way and let her do what she does. And if she raised her hand and needed something, then I would jump to try to help. But I don't know if that hardly even ever happened. Mostly it was just let Lilith run. And amazing to see what you did when you ran. Always. So thank you.
Getting out of my way is all I ask of the world.
Yes, it's reasonable. Totally reasonable.
Please just get out of my way.
All right, everyone. That brings this episode of Stories We Haven't Shared to a close. I believe stories are our humanity waiting to be shared, and listening makes it possible. Thank you so much for being here today and sitting by our virtual campfire with us. Until next time, and thank you again to Lilith. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.